Just to finish off a little bit with things like flags and representation. As you notice upon the flag of the territory, we don't have the X, if you like. Here's a bit of food for thought. Where do you think the term double-crossed comes from? See this flag here? It's got two crosses on it. You know, one this way, one that way. And because the way the system of oppression operates, which is covertly, or behind the scenes, operates in the shadows, maybe that's why judges wear black cloaks. Literally what this says to a lot of us is that the symbol of the sovereign has been captured. It's been crossed out. So now, this stuff, as I say, has been going on for a long time. And of course we've got the present debate about the flag and the change of the flag. Now, as far as I'm aware, the only person that can agree to the change of the flag is actually Elizabeth herself, because it's the flag of her realm. I find it a bit fascinating that we're talking about what flag we're going to have before we've even talked about whether we even want to change it.
We don't.
You know, hence the propaganda. Now, the flag that they actually want, of course, wasn't in the four that were selected as the finalists, because that's part of the deception. However, and of course now we've had come to the fore this red peak flag. You know, oh, there's enough people who wanted it, so we're going to put it in. Well, these are trolls. This is how belief structures are put on people, because a lot of people now believe that there's enough people who wanted to have the option of the red peak flag in place, so now they've added it. Okay? No. Because at the end of the day, we want to have this flag flying over. Symbology. When you understand symbology, it doesn't have the effect upon you. When you don't understand it, it can, because things are done with intent. So isn't it interesting that if you take the red peak flag and put it in 4 different directions, then if you want to cut the blue off the outside, I mean, that's the symbol you've got. Do you think this stuff happens by chance? No. So it's, as I say, it's in your face, you know. And this is where there was a lot of confusion created, because a lot of people, you know, lay a lot of blame upon the Germanic peoples. There was a big difference between being of the Germanic race and being a Nazi. Because Nazi is an ideology. So, you know, when I see that, and this has been going around the internet, more what people are waking up to going, really? In fact, it was a woman in her 80s sent me this. Said, why would anybody want to vote for this? Good question.
Like the 2 silver ferns that John Key liked.
2 silver ferns crossed with a kiwi, and if you looked at it from a distance, it actually looked like the skull and crossbones.
You wouldn't like that one.
You've got to laugh at it, really, because as I say, life is much too serious to be taken seriously. So, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we will create the reality. We create the reality with our intent, and you put out your intent. You hold to that intent and you act towards that intent. By acting towards that intent, what you're doing is you're giving the universe direction to manifest your will. So it says, thy will be done. That's where it comes from. Because as Masaru Emoto showed, humanity has the ability to change the molecular structure of water with intent. Now think about that for a moment. Humanity has the ability to change the molecular structure of water with intent. Water is lifeblood. It's the blood of life. You know, there is no life without water. And life actually in this form comes from a combination of 3 things. The earth, the sea, and the sun. So we have a sort of a proverb, if you like, where, you know, when Father Ocean caresses Mother Earth and the light of the Creator shines upon the union, life bursts forth. We're connected to every other living thing on this planet, because we're all connected by water. And the way information is transmitted throughout this water world that we live in Because we actually live in a wishing well. Be careful what you wish for. Because the universe will strive to manifest your intent. So it's having an understanding of that concept that our very thoughts every minute of every day impact upon the well-being of absolutely every living thing in this dimension. So what I suggest to people is start learning to take time just to be. Even if you can do it for 2 20-minute periods during a day, usually just when you wake up or just before you go to sleep. Right? And just be. Just think about what you're thinking about. Think about why you are thinking about it, how you're thinking about it, and why you're actually thinking about it in that way. Because a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about shit that doesn't matter. Okay? So it ends up creating a massive amount of confusion. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Take the learning from it, move on. Okay? So the more who operate in a collective capacity, as was talked about in the 1835, because when you combine the power of thought amplified from the heart, what you do is create an organic particle accelerator, because there's no difference between this and this and this and this, because they're all made up of light energy particles. Now, because we have the ability to change the molecular structure of water with our intent, every thought, every word, every deed has an impact upon every living thing. And each is responsible for that which they do. There's no judgment here upon another. The only person that we can actually judge is ourselves. The universe does the rest, which is good because you can't bullshit the universe. So, when people say to me that they can't do anything, they're just one person. Well, here's something that we've had people try and have found great success. During the course of your day, see how many people you can consciously wish well to. You don't have to say it. But when you're walking down the road, when you're in the checkout, whatever. Every time you come across something, another living thing, wish it well. Just have that thought, wish you well. Because we live in a wishing well. And what is happening is that this regime of oppression is programming the reality through the thoughts of people. That's why people tend to operate more in the negative, if you like, than in the positive. You know, this is orchestrated right throughout the media. You know? 10 children drowned during the summer holidays. What about a couple of million of kids that went to the beach and had a great time? You know, unfortunately, we lost 12 along the way. Now they're looking at tearing up pools out of the schools, so we'll probably have a few more. But it's this sort of propaganda that gets imposed upon people, and they're unaware that it's being imposed upon them, because when they're watching the media and they're reading the newspapers and they're thinking they're being well informed. No, they're being well indoctrinated and well programmed. But when you have the eyes to see, and you see the deceptions for what they are, then the whole veil falls away. Because each of us holds a position of responsibility, whether we want to. That was part of the agreement of actually manifesting and incarnating here. We, with the 1835 and the 1840, when implemented and fully implemented by the people, actually is a recipe to change the world. We hold that here in this land. This is what came here. This is what's held here. And that's the code of the sovereign. Living as a sovereign. Living in honour of creation, being of service to humanity. Which being of service to humanity, and service I do, servitude I'm not so good at. Being of service to humanity is meaning having the environment that our children require to grow up healthy, knowledgeable, to be able to express themselves and all their amazing capabilities in whatever way they choose, as long as they're causing no harm to another. But our whole structure of society is now becoming more and more about absolute conformity. We're starting to live in a grey world. And all this vibrant colour of the diversities of cultures is being wiped out, squashed, and we don't even have the time to go and enjoy the little that's left, because that's what's being parasited of us more than anything is our enjoyment of life. So you end up being a hamster on someone else's treadmill. Because we've been indoctrinated that we have to live our lives to somebody else's expectations. When you live your life to someone else's expectations, you're not living your life.
No.
You're living theirs. So what happened to your life? Only you can write your life story. And more people, and particularly young people, are waking up and actually seeing this now. So we do a lot of work and a lot of encouragement with young people. Everyone holds the responsibility of the reality that our children are going to live in. We all hold that responsibility. We took on that responsibility when we chose to be incarnated here. And we hold that responsibility for our children who chose us as their parents when they incarnated here. Now, a lot of the regime wants you to believe that there is no such thing as reincarnation. Well, that suits their cause, because it's easier to get people to do things that they would otherwise do if they don't think that there's any comeuppance for it. But the truth behind it is that so many of us actually are aware of our past lives of having walked through this world. So a lot of stuff is coming in and it's being indoctrinated. It's propaganda. So one of the best things you can do is actually switch off the TV for a while. Use it for the medium that it can be of actually learning stuff. You know? And there's so much information out there now. Be discerning or be discriminatory, which actually was an old word for being able to determine between that which is fact and that which is fiction. You could discriminate. Now it's been turned into a dirty word. Like ignorance. Ignorance, people think, is actually an insult to somebody. I'm ignorant of many things. It means I just don't have the knowledge of them. You know? I mean, I'm the last person you'd want to get doing brain surgery on you. So because of, with our diversity of knowledge that we all carry, and we're all tapped into the one source, this is where you see these children coming through now with amazing abilities that we as children didn't have, because that's evolution. Our children are the sum total of both their parents. Now, if we stand with 100,000 ancestors, if I stand with 100,000 ancestors before me, which I do because I'm the physical manifestation of all my ancestors behind me. You know? The question I ask myself is, how well do I bear their water? So when my son's mum, if she has 100,000 ancestors before her, because we all go back to the beginning of time, then our son is the sum total of 200,000 ancestors. That's evolution. That's why our kids seem smarter than we are. That's why we were smarter than our parents. Mostly. Generally. Hopefully. So it's having this sort of understanding of the basic building blocks of the world in which we live. And we live in a vibratorial universe. It's like living in a symphony orchestra. Now we've got all the pieces of the orchestra in place, but it is just playing disharmony because of the conductor. Now what the 1835 and 1840 coming together in our right of self-determination, we're changing the conductor. The tune's good, it just needs to be played correctly. In other words, if it is not of a benefit for humanity, then it is parasiting upon it. So if it's not of a benefit for humanity, what on earth are we doing even allowing it, let alone participating in it? Now, because society is pretty much on a life support system, we're supporting the life of something else actually, you can't pull the life support system off something and expect it to thrive. You have to heal it first, because humanity is in a state of dis-ease, of disharmony, and we see that all about through our society. So it's about healing it. This is why I have compassion for those who are involved right up to the top of the oppression pyramid. They know not what they do. They think they do. But if they truly knew what they were a party to, they wouldn't be doing it. Because they're actually party to their own demise. Because they're operating in a state of contraction. You can only either be in one of two states, one of evolvement or one of contraction. When you're operating in fear, you're in a state of contraction. That's why when you get a fright, you tense up. So if you're in a state of fear, if you're living your life in a state of fear, my kid's going to get sick, can I pay the rent, or I'm going to have a job tomorrow, you know, am I driving too fast, is my registration up to date? They're all fears. And people are living in this fear minute by minute of their lives. They're not in a state of evolvement. They're in a state of contraction. So we need to step past our fear and realise there is no thing to fear. You know? Because we actually have the ability to change the reality that we all live in. Matters not to me what others choose to do. I know where I stand and what I choose to do. This is why I finished my documentation with I am, thus I am. What happens to me in the physical dimension is absolutely irrelevant. No? I would not look at prolonging this mortal existence 1 minute if it meant stepping out of dishonour to do so. That's how a sovereign is. That's all a sovereign is. You live your life in honour to the best of your abilities and you operate in service to humanity. And the Tupuna understood that. And that was the concepts that were shared between our ancestors, and that's why this documentation came in place, because that's the mechanism of how we can actually do that, and it's internationally recognised. However, because it's what we call a living document, it only comes to life with the people that stand behind it, stand with it, stand to it. Now, who can deny any of us the right to live in honour of creation? I'd like to see them step up and make that claim. So, what we did over a period of time was look at how we can practically apply these spiritual concepts, if you like. And that's why we use a proclamation, because that's my statement of truth. My proclamation is my statement of truth. I have the right to self-determination. I live my life in honour to the best of my abilities. And I stand with the order that was put in place by our ancestors in order to express that. So, what we're going to do with this presentation is similar to what we did to the last one, and thanks for the people recording it, because we've had quite a few people have a look at it. Because I know it's a lot of information, and this tends to overload people a bit. But it's actually really, really simple. Everyone has the right to self-determination. No one has the right to enslave another. As soon as anyone exerts their will upon you, they are attempting to enslave you. However, be aware, you also have responsibilities. And your responsibility is not to knowingly cause harm to another. And should you do that, then restore the harmony. Then we're all living in a harmonious universe, not in one of discordance. Because that's why we've got the high suicide rates. Because the young people are even more aware of this discordance going on, because we have become inured to it over a period of time, because our parents were, and their parents before them, and this has been implemented over a period of time. However, while this system of oppression has been operating for as long as it's been operating, so has there also been a system operating of trying to awaken, of providing information and helping people understand actually of the reality that they're living in and how they are an intrinsic part of that reality and how they are actually involved in creating that reality. However, because one of the codes of this part of the code of a sovereign is never the aggressor will be, we do not exert our will upon another. You have the right to make your choice, whether you want to live in honour or not. It's entirely up to you. Sovereigns make no judgment upon that. We respect your right to choose. All we say is that we have the same right. We all have the same right. We all have the right to choose how we wish to live, because it's our life. It's a gift to us from the Creator. Who else has the right to tell us how we live our life? No one, quite simply. So for me, it's actually really simple. You've got the right of self-determination. You either stand to it or you don't. Okay? I've chosen to. So have many others. Now we're actually seeing the movement of it, where more and more people are becoming aware that the absolute fundamental thing you have is your right of self-determination. You stand upon that. From there, you form your associations to live together, being fully aware that you hold a responsibility of not causing harm to another. It's really that simple, and anybody imposing anything other upon you is trying to enslave you. And they don't have the right to do that, no matter what they may think or what bullshit or trickery they've used to try and implement it. Now, go online and have a look at this. Oaths and Declarations Act 1957. Persons required to take the oath of allegiance and the judicial oath, and it lists them all out there.
Sheriffs, that's not really taken.
No, we have sheriffs. Yep. The head registrar of a court is also the sheriff. Not that many of them actually know that. Yeah. Because they took, look.
Funnily enough, the sheriff in Whangarei has an office in the courthouse, but he resides in Auckland and has an office there.
And we pay for his travel. So, how this deception is woven around people is because you go to learn something and you're taught by a lecturer, a professor, a teacher, and what you would believe is that what you're being taught is truthful. Well, mostly it's not. You know? I mean, when you get people still going down and doing, becoming orthodontists and down in Otago, who come away from there still with the intent of putting amalgam, mercury, into people's mouths. And when I asked one this, intelligent man, I said, where's your rationale? Mercury is the second most natural toxic substance known to science. Where's your rationale of sticking mercury in people's mouths? How is that going to be of benefit to them? And his answer was, when you mix mercury with other heavy metals, it makes it inert. And he paid 100 grand to learn that. I said he could have paid me 20, I could have told him it was crap. Saved him a fortune. But because he's paid money and he's learnt this from supposed learned people, it becomes a given. And down through the generations it gets pushed. As I pointed out to him, when amalgam was first started to being used, it was actually said to be unethical. The American Dental Association ruled it as unethical to use because of its toxicity until they got the rights to it. Then suddenly it was all right. So, getting back to the two oaths. The judicial oath. I swear that I will well and truly serve Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law. According to agreement of the parties. That's what law is. So he's got to uphold the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights because it's international law and you cannot create a jurisdiction to override those rights. So he is actually bound by his oath. The judge is bound, they're bound by their oath to act according to law. In the office of judge or justice, and I will do right to all men of people after the laws and usages of New Zealand without fear or favour, affection or ill will. I have yet to see this fully enacted in a court. Because it just doesn't happen. Some judges try, but because they have been indoctrinated into belief structures through their association with the Law Society, etc., their understanding is fraught. Or they're too scared to do it. They have compassion for them. I never go into court unless I have a copy of the Constabulary oath and the judicial oath. Because when this operates correctly, it is actually of a benefit to all of us. So even the politicians, I was having an interesting discussion with a colleague the other day who was saying we need to get the politicians involved in this, and I actually said to him, well, the politicians can't actually even stand to their own oaths of office, so why would we bother? They don't even know what their oaths of office mean.
Well, isn't it true most of them don't actually swear an oath, it's just the the head one does an oath for all of them.
Well, that's what seems to be happening in the constabulary, definitely. When I've spoken to constables and actually asked them what, if they are operating to their oath of office, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, did you swear an oath? And they go, well, they read out an oath at police training. We all said, I do.
Yeah, well, you go to the local body.
So, yeah, but you don't. That's the point. I'm trying to make you don't. You don't operate to it. So this is where we, by knowing these oaths, we can actually help bring them into, help restore order. Because that's what we're about. It's not about collapsing the system. It's not about creating chaos. It's actually about restoring order so that we can live peacefully, harmoniously. Our children have a future. And we are not imposed upon or aggressed upon. So there's the Governor-General's oath. Oath of allegiance, which is generally done by the politicians. Will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law. What was the first law of the realm in New Zealand? No, that was the first law of Nu Tireni. 1840, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, because that's what brought New Zealand into being. So that's its constitutional order, that's its law, that's its rule of law, that's how it's supposed to operate. The preamble is there, and the articles, the 3 articles, are how to uphold the reason for it. So it's law, it's international law, it's an internationally recognised agreement of the parties. It is international law. So when the politicians go in there, they're supposed to be operating according to law. But because they've been tricked into operating to a bunch of pirates dressed up as a corporation, and they're not even aware of it, they're just doing what they're told, without actually going and doing any research themselves and finding out what their responsibilities are and how they're meant to be upholding. Now, the constabulary oath. This is what I was saying before, this is why these oaths are sworn to Elizabeth II, because she holds the mantle of that privilege of governance agreed to by our ancestors and internationally recognised of Te Tiriti. I swear that I will faithfully and diligently serve Her Majesty the Queen of New Zealand, that's her title, her heirs and successors, and we've all heard about Her Majesty the Queen and right of. You know, that's a corporate construct, it's part of the deception. Okay? Without favour or affection, malice or ill will. While a constable, I will, to the best of my power, keep the peace and prevent offences against the peace, and that is all they are allowed to do. And perform all duties of the office of constable according to law. Nowhere in these oaths does it say according to corporate, company or association policy or legislation. It says according to law. And where the deception comes in is you've even got judges believing that Parliament makes the law and we have to uphold it. It's bizarre. Would they want to uphold that law if Parliament decided that once you're over 55 you're a waste of space, so will they'll euthanize you? I don't think so. Not that they're not trying anyway. So, to keep the peace and prevent against breaches of the peace. So what's a breach of the peace? Anybody got an idea?
Yeah, anything unlawful.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it. A trespass on your rights is a breach of the peace. If somebody's trespassing upon your rights, they're breaching your peace. So instead of pulling out a gun and shooting each other, what was put in place was a system of restoring the harmony. It's called restorative justice, restoring the harmony. People become aware of the impact that their actions has upon other people, and are given the opportunity to remedy, to restore the harmony between the parties. So we can live in peace and harmony, and actually get on and enjoy life, and all that it has to offer. So, knowing this oath, and asking a police constable if he is aware of his oath, is he acting in his oath of office at this time? Now, all those who are operating in the constabulary on the front line, if you like, carry a notebook. Now, the reason they carry a notebook is so they can make notes. That's why it's called a notebook. It's not only there just for them to make notes of what they say and what you say. You can ask them to take a note. We request. But remember, they are also the servants. So we request them to take a note. So one of the things you can do is say, are you acting under your oath of office at this time? Whatever the answer, could you please record your answer in your notebook, because I will be asking you that same question in court.